Hi guys, it's Scudder for Mike. Today we're going to learn how to build a keep and maintain your domain. Now, we use old school essentials for our solo play, but the problem is that it doesn't give enough details on how to carry out domain level play. Aside from when you hit 9th level, you get a bunch of followers. So what I use at home in my in-person game with my players is the D&D Companion Box Set. It's actually pretty intuitive and very, very simple and easy to follow. As we mentioned before, in the solo play, we can't really use any character from that to demonstrate how this is done because they're all way too low level. They don't have the gold yet. I think our highest level fighter is level 3. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you my knight from my home game, Sir Bedivere, and I'll show you how I calculate his monthly income. It's all passive that he collects every month at the beginning of the month. And I'll also show you how you can build your own domain when your character is of the appropriate level. So let's go ahead and look at that now. Here we're looking at the Dungeon Master's Companion. It's actually book 2 for the Companion Box Set. Loving the dragon art on the cover. But what we need to do is look at the end of page 4 and the beginning of page 5. So we're going to zoom in just a little bit. The first part here, it talks about obtaining a domain. This just lists several different ways about how you can acquire a hex to take control of. There's lots of valuable information in this document. I do encourage you to read it carefully, but there's lots of different ways to get it, but we're going to be looking in particular over here where it talks about population. There's 3 categories that your hex could have. It could be civilized, so you could be given a land grant in a settled area. It could be on the edge of that area, a borderland, where kind of wild, kind of not, or it could just be off in the wilderness and you conquer it by yourself. But when you generate your hex, you need to know which one of those 3 under population here on the side, which one of those 3 you have, civilized, borderlands, or wilderness, because that's going to determine how many families you start with. Every family has about 5 members in it, and you need families to generate tax income and to build roads and to harvest the resources that you're going to generate for your hex. So for the example we're going to use, I will show you Sir Bedivere, and he started with the wilderness hex. I rolled a d10 and I multiplied by 10. I had 40 families to start. And then month after month, I've slowly been building. So every month, you get to generate a passive amount of families. Your population will just increase. If you're in this lowest bracket like I was, you gain 25% of your families every month, which is great. You also will roll a d10 to gain a number of families and roll another d10 to lose a number of families. I'll demonstrate that in the example. Here for domain resources, this is the most important aspect of of how you make money for your hex, and here's how. You're going to roll a d10 and determine what extra valuable resources you have in your hex that can help you generate currency. I rolled a 6, so I had 2 extra resources. And then I rolled an animal and a mineral resource here on page 5 at the top. You can roll a d10 to determine what kind is it. Now, if you keep scrolling down under domain administration, again, there's lots of valuable information in here, but we don't have time to read it all. Instead, we're just going to talk about the highlights. So let's talk about how you generate income. The first aspect of income is called standard income. This is determined 10 gold times the number of families you have. Now, this is not going to generate gold for you or XP. It's more of a narrative tool that you can use to determine how much money is generated in your hex that you could host different events that happen in your hex. So it does matter, but not for what we're doing today. What we want to know is how do we make gold and how do we get XP? It's through these other 2 sources of income, tax and resource. I'm just going to highlight those so you can see them. They're on page 5. So taxes, you get 1 gold per family. Now, you can increase this, but there are consequences to it. You might have a confidence check later at the end of your year, and you might have problems for the rest of your year. So be careful with taxing too much. It makes your peasants unhappy. You get 1 XP and 1 gold. So for every family you have, you get 1 XP. That's great. You're going to add that tax income to your resource income. You generated that before. You rolled a D10 and it told you how many different resources you had. I rolled an animal and a mineral, so I have 5 extra gold per family every month. And once you add those two totals together, you're going to have how much money and XP you generate for the month. Over here is a really great example of how this is done. You should definitely read it. And it talks about keeping good records for the player and for the DM. So over here is the last thing you're going to want to look at. It's the expenses, the costs of running your domain. There's about a 30% cost of everything you make that's going to go to your liege lord or to the church or a mixture of both. So let's take a look at Sir Bedivere so we can take a closer look at how we're going to do this in a practical way. All right, here's Sir Bedivere Ironhawk, my level 6 knight. He is my prized PC. I love this character. He has been through some serious battles and he has come out ahead. Now, sometime back in the end of October of 2023, Sir Bedivere began construction on his keep. I think it was about 26,000. I got the stone walls, a small tower, the gatehouse, something like that. So it took quite some time. So according to the rules in OSE, you can construct 500 gold per day worth of construction. So it took several days, and the same thing is going to have to be applied to your character at home. If you're using one-to-one time, it takes actual months, but that's neither here nor there. At the beginning of the month, we're going to calculate his revenue, his passive revenue for Bedivere Keep. So let's turn here. I've got some extra notes I keep. This helps me keep track of everything that's been going on with him. So I've got the months down here, the income, the monthly costs. I have to pay out 30% of everything I make to the church and to my liege lord. Right now I have 92 families. And I have 2 different resources. One is animal, one is mineral, for an additional 5 gold per family. So that's really useful. So let's look at March 1st, how this is going to go for Bedivere. So he's under 100 families. So that means he's still going to benefit from 25% growth. So if I'm punching that into the calculator, okay, he goes up to 115 families. Now, we're going to calculate, we're at 115. We can just kind of put a little note here. We're going to grow and we're going to lose some every month, just like it says in the companion set. So we're going to grow by 5, but we're going to shrink. So that puts us at 120, but we're going to shrink by 1. So that puts us at 119. Okay, so what we do is we take that 119 and we plug it into our income sources down here, and that's how we're going to determine how much XP and gold that Sir Bedivere makes for the month of March. So we have our resources, animal and mineral. One gives us 3 gold per family, one gives us 2 gold per family. So we have 5 extra gold that we multiply by the number of families. That's our total resources. Then we take into account taxes, 1 gold per family. So if you take 5 and you multiply it, because we get 5, not every keep will have that. Some will have more, some will have less. I think we're kind of on the higher end. So we're going to take that 5 and multiply it by 119 for a total of 595 plus 1 gold per family plus 119. So let's go ahead and mark that down. We've got March for 2024. Our family is 119 plus 595 gold for our resources. Let's see, what is that total? For a total of 714 gold. Now,
we take that 714 and we have to subtract 30% for our taxes. 30% of 714 is 214 and 2 silver. We're just going to round down to say 214. So we'll just minus the 214 here. That's nice and easy. For an even 500 gold profit for the month. So the church gets their 10%, my liege lord gets their 20%. I'm actually paying out right now to both sides of my civil war. It's not that I want to, it's just the faction in the church. We have an inquisition going on right now, and they're not the dominant source, they're just the source of the war. So I'm still paying my taxes. Sir Bedivere is a good Christian man, so he's going to pay his church, and he has to pay his liege lord, but he is kind of straddling right now with his taxes, like playing both sides of the fence. But as you can see, from December to March, I'm slowly increasing my revenue. It might be a little hard to see like the details because I am writing this in pencil because there's a lot of like scribbling and scratching going on. But as you can see, it is going up 227, 286, 387, 500. So when I calculate again in April, I'll have to bump up to the next bracket that it brought up in the companions about how when you move up past 100 families, you, instead of growing naturally by 25%, you'll only go up by 20. But it's been a process getting there. And I think this shows like how one-to-one time can be used in an effective way. Sir Bedivere is investing his time in raising a keep, slowly building up his army so he can join in the battles to come. And using one-to-one time, it's a slow process, but it really accentuates the value that the original Dungeons and Dragons put on time. If it says it can only you can only be cured once a week, if you're using stop time, if you can only be cured of disease once a week and you're using stop time, that 1 week stipulation means nothing, because you can just say, oh well, 2 weeks have gone by, 3 weeks have gone by, everybody's cured, everything's fine. But if you're using one-to-one time, you can see on the calendar, well, he's already used it this week. Sorry, your disease is going to have to wait. Or, oh, he can build 500 gold worth of a keep a day. Well, your keep is 26,000 gold. It's going to be several months. It's a slow process, but when you actually complete it, you feel like you've earned something. And I think that that's the value and what I want to share with keeping a domain, even though this is just one aspect of it. There's also the war machine, which we're going to go back to the companion rules for later in another video to explain how Bedivere can muster an army and use it to help his liege lords in the battles.